Hello, this is Tiffany again with The Balanced Life, Redefine Success, Redefine Fail. And today I'm going to be talking about protecting your relationships during tough times. This is part of a series I've been doing the last week or so because a lot of times when we're preparing for difficulty, we focus so much on the physical needs, we forget the emotional, psychological needs, and that's what gets like pushed to the back, and that's what ends up rearing its head in things like stress-based illness, overeating, which leads to other illnesses, trashed relationships, general unhappiness, those kind of things. So, as I said in a previous video, stress exposes weakness. So think about it when you've got a building. If there is an excessive amount of wind, if there's an excessive amount of weight, it will expose the weakness of that structure. In the Bible, Jesus talks about that there was a house built on the sand and the winds and the waves came and crashed into the house and it collapsed because it didn't have a strong foundation. Stress will expose the weaknesses, and all of us have them because we are not perfect beings. And lack can limit temporarily our opportunities, whether it's a lack of time. We may not be able to go and do some things that would help us. Like you may not be able to go and have me time the way you did before you had kids or a marriage or a job or whatever it was, or college. You may have a lack of finances. You may have a lack of mobility. Maybe the gas prices are making it so you really don't want to drive many places. In a lot of the larger cities, in the previous 2 years, there was a lack of ability to go places because of the limitations of public transportation. So lack can temporarily limit our opportunities, and it's important that we not get fixated on what we can't do, but focus on what it is we can still do and maximize that. Another issue is that fear and worry will breed more of the same. Think about it when you're nervous about something, even if it's something good. I mean, when I was nervous for my wedding day, my anniversary is coming up, I remember just like that's all I could think about. There was like nothing else happening anywhere. There was no housework happening. There was no laundry happening. Work, I was like zoned out. Thankfully, my French sister had come over to be in my wedding, so her and I were like hanging out and doing fun things. But I had to write everything down because nothing was happening in my life. Because I was worried that something might not go right or that I would forget something or what. Fear also can breed more of the same. If you're afraid of one thing, it increases fear in other areas, and you, especially if something's been taken or almost taken, near-death experiences, life-threatening illnesses. We've had these things in our life. You know, when you're driving along and you have a major car crash, that fear makes it so you can't drive for a while. Okay, enough of that, you understand. So during difficult times, the way to protect your relationships, and this is all kinds of relationships, think of how you can apply this to your own. First of all, find ways to de-stress. Focus on anything positive. I personally pray and read my Bible and read the promises. I look at the positive change that I can make, and that's what you need to do. Look at the positive changes that you can make in your life, not the things that you can't do. This is how war heroes survive being in POW camps, or floating in an ocean after a ship sinks. We hear these amazing stories of soldiers and people who have survived insane things, and you'll hear them almost universally say that they were determined and they focused on their reason for survival. The same thing can be true in something as small as what we're experiencing right now. Do this with relationships too. Focus on the good that you have seen, that you see now, and that you believe you will see. Focus on what you want to see in that person. Because really, I actually did an experiment once, and it probably wasn't the best idea. But I was driving and I was just having a phenomenal day. And I had been learning about how our mindsets influence our outcomes. So as I was driving, I decided to think about anything I could that my husband did that annoyed me. Just like any irritating thing. We've been together since he was in high school. I had just graduated. but we got married. He was 19, I was 20 when we got married. And so we've known each other since we were teenagers. And I started thinking of everything and anything that he had ever done that annoyed me. And within just a few minutes, I mean, one song that was playing on the radio, I was enraged with him. And then I went, whoa, back it up a little bit. And so I started forcing myself to focus on good things about him. And actually, it was really hard at first. Even though it had been so easy to find something negative, to get that tension calmed back down, I had to think a really, really long time. And even when I didn't get myself all the way back to that really excited state. I don't remember when it came back. I mean, it did, but it wasn't like in the next hour or two. So in relationships, if we focus on the good in people, we're going to naturally lean toward the bad, truthfully. Even parents, where we see the best in our kids, we're still going to assume a lot of times, oh my goodness, did they make a mistake? And then you see it and you go, oh good, I knew you could do it. Doesn't mean we always think the worst in our kids, but we're inclined to being someone who corrects them. And so when we were raising them up, when they were little, no, don't touch that. No, don't do that. You're always watching, making sure they're not in danger. And we continue that as they get older. And we also tend to do that with other people. So focus on the positive and be thankful for everything. When I'm looking for something, if I find my keys, I say, thank you, God. When I'm looking around the house, if I find something, I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm so glad I found that. Consider what opportunities you do have and how to capitalize on them. I've said this before in this video, but that is really a key piece. So when I started my business writing Career Coach, we had been 4 months behind in our mortgage. We had not eaten a full meal in 5 months. We were suffering financially from our adoption, immediately followed by my husband's cancer diagnosis. We were in a recession that was starting at that time in the country. There were no jobs to be found anywhere. The engine had blown in one car when Chris was diagnosed. And right at the end of his chemo, the engine blew in the other car that we were still paying payments on. It wasn't paid off yet. And I live in the country, and there was no way to even get off my property. This was 2007. There was no Uber. There were no taxis that would come up here. And the taxis I could get, because I lived 3 miles from the state line, I couldn't get them to cross state lines to take me to a job. They were going to have to drive me to the state line, drop me off, and I was going to have to wait for a second taxi to pick me up and take me to... It was ridiculous. So instead, what I did is I focused on what I could do, and what I could do was write. And I knew about business, and I knew a lot of things about like giving a business approach to your writing. And this was not a big thing in 2007. It existed. I didn't invent it, but it didn't exist. So I did that. And at a penny per word, I built a writing business. So I focused on what I had. Capitalize on those things. Number 3, reflect on what is going right and what your kids, your coworkers, your spouse, your friends, and family are doing right. See, they're under pressure too right now. They're experiencing a lot of stress as well. If you can focus on what they're doing right and be the example and be positive, you will be happier inside, but you'll also make life better for them. And you can then say, this is how I'm doing this. So make your relationship a priority and think about, what do you do when something's a priority? You spend time on it. You work at it. You see the best in it. You believe in it. So learn to read things. Learn how to read things to develop relationships. Learn how to read things to make you a more positive person. Read books that will help you heal from hurts that you have inside and insecurities so that you can be stronger for those around you. Learn new skills, but protect the relationships you have in these hard times, because you might be that silver lining that they need in their life. And in doing that, you feel better about yourself and about them. Now, one more caveat. We always put the oxygen mask on ourselves before we put it on somebody else in an airplane. You do need to fill yourself up, but that's why I said you first focus on de-stressing, find ways to de-stress, and then focus on the positive. That is how you get your own oxygen. It's not by having some outside thing happen. It's all inside. So I hope you've got something out of this. I would love to hear some of your comments and suggestions in the comments below. Thank you so much. Like, share, and click the bell on this. Spread this around to people you think would benefit, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.